Let's head to Ethiopia now, where the country is fast becoming a haven for Bitcoin miners, an industry the Ethiopian government has actively supported. 27 foreign companies in the country are allowed to mine Bitcoin. That's the world's largest cryptocurrency. Now, power is cheap there and the climate conducive to allow the process. But how much does the host country benefit? And would the vast amounts of power consumed be better used elsewhere here in Africa? The BBC's Jewel Kiryungi has more.
In a world racing for digital gold, Ethiopia has quietly entered the game. Just outside Addis Ababa, a Russian company is mining Bitcoin, powered by Ethiopia's surplus renewable energy.
We have chosen Ethiopia for different reasons. First of all, it's the cost of energy. The second one is the climate conditions. And the third one, of course, is the regulations and the attitude of the government to the industry. And here we found a good combination of all of this.
BitCluster is one of 27 foreign companies in Ethiopia allowed to mine Bitcoin, the world's largest cryptocurrency. Unlike the cash in your wallet, Bitcoin exists entirely online. It is bought, sold, and spent with no banks involved.
These machines are just generating trillions of codes, and only few of them will be really useful for blockchain and for Bitcoin blockchain. And of course, this consumes a lot of energy, but on the other hand, this gives a top-level security for Bitcoin.
Each mining machine earns a profit of about $5.71 a day, according to NiceHash, a Slovenian cryptocurrency mining platform. Multiply that by thousands of machines and mining becomes a multi-billion-dollar business.
A Bitcoin mining facility is often located close to a power substation due to the huge amounts of energy needed to run it. Ethiopia has set aside some 600 megawatts of power to Bitcoin mining operations. This is about half the energy needed to power the capital, Addis Ababa.
In 2024, state-owned Ethiopian Electric Power made $55 million selling electricity to Bitcoin mining companies. They expect to double that this year. The government says these revenues will help expand electricity access.
We can expand our network through the revenue we are getting from this data mining business. We will expand our transmission and distribution network. We will reinvest again for our company. So I think in general, our plan is properly working out.
Not everyone is convinced. Nearly half of Ethiopia's 120 million people still lack access to electricity. Critics argue the government should focus on expanding power access for its own people first. But cheap power alone won't guarantee fair growth and development. Without careful planning, Bitcoin profits could deepen inequalities, benefiting only a few regions.
I would suggest from either the side of the power producers or the utility or the investment commission, which regions need more substations, where are the populations, the pockets, the universities, the hospitals, and how can we get the Bitcoin miners there with the infrastructure, with the capital.
For Ethiopia to fully reap the benefits of Bitcoin mining, it needs to balance its pursuit of foreign investment with the development needs of its underserved people. Jewel Kiryungi, BBC News, Addis Ababa.
Now, earlier on, I spoke with Kalkasa, who is the founder and educator at Bitcoin Bear, based in Ethiopia. And I started by asking him about the uptake of the digital currency in the country and around the region.
About 27 companies have now entered Ethiopia to mine Bitcoin. Many of these companies are operational, and Ethiopian Electric Power has generated $220 million last year selling electricity to these Bitcoin miners. It requires a great deal of capital. A lot of these miners are spending upwards of $5, $10, sometimes $50 million on one facility. They're buying 10, sometimes 50,000 machines, or Bitcoin miners, we call them. But if you're able to secure electricity at an attractive rate, in Ethiopia, that means 3.2 cents kilowatt hour, then it could be a very lucrative opportunity.
Why is it that more than 20 companies have invested in Bitcoin, specifically in Ethiopia?
These past few weeks, the Ethiopian Investment Commission has actually said no more business licenses until we understand the supply. And they might also, I think, roll back a few business licenses. And so from my personal point of view, I think this will be a great way to capitalize the growth that Ethiopian Electric Power needs in its construction of not only the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which is a $5 billion investment, but what's next, which is the Koisha hydropower project, which is currently eating 50% of Ethiopian Electric Power's revenue.
Now, if we look at crypto miners, they were a major contribution to Ethiopia's power export. But what will it translate to the people who have not been connected to the grid? How long will they be able to wait before they are connected to power?
Well, it depends, right? So if you're living in an urban area, you probably have a connection point. If you're living in a rural area, maybe not, right? Because there's 190 substations. And as per our growing population, if we're all to enter the middle class, if we're all to buy a water heater and appliances that make life worth living in the developing era, then we're going to need much more of that infrastructure. And so this revenue will allow Ethiopian Electric Power to invest into more of these, let's call them infrastructure and hardware necessary for our population. But also, I think Ethiopian Electric Power and maybe other entities might also consider off-grid as a potential solution. So not everything needs to be connected to the substations and to the power stations and to the national network. You can have many off-grid solutions. And so we can connect in the next 50 million or 60 million people in Ethiopia using creative, let's call it geothermal and solar and hydro that is maybe built in parallel to the existing network.
What does it take to invest in Bitcoin?
I believe 5% of the Bitcoin network is being secured in Ethiopia, which means 5% of that $300,000 or $400,000 pool of rewards every 10 minutes is going to a miner in Ethiopia. And so I think that's significant. That's allowing us to leapfrog into more power stations, more substations and transmission lines so that 50% of the population that currently doesn't have electricity can have some access to it.
Well, you're watching Focus on Africa on BBC News.